and says we're live.
Awesome. Hey, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a business owner and a craftsperson to answer any questions. And if I don't have the answers, people like Noah, my guest, does. And the people who are associated with this show do. So today we are not going to waste any time. I will intro the PCA contractor question of the week, and then Noah and I are going to do something really awesome, which is our question exchange or cross-examination of each other. So we both have a list of questions prepared, and we're just going to exchange questions. This is Ask Two Painters today. So thank you to the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, for being great underwriters of this. They're champions of what Noah and I preach, what we live, what we do. We want to professionalize this industry. We want to improve the industry, and Noah's out there doing it. I'm trying, and the PCA is basically our champion with that. So the PCA contractor question of the week this week is, what's something you once believed, but now you do not? It's a good one. And if it needs some time for thinking, we can circle back to it. But I thought that was a really good question this week. So.
I have an answer for that. Is that all right?
Yo, that's for you, man. Go right ahead.
Oh, God. Okay. I thought you needed to do this. Sorry for the lapse there.
Guess first.
Right,
guess first.
No, the big one that jumps out for me is up until about 2 years ago, I thought I would never hire. It just felt like too much of an obstacle, too much compliance and this and that. And I honestly, growing up in the trades, I never personally experienced anyone who did it well and fully legally. So it was just like, I'm not going to do that. That's probably too much work. If you want something done right, do it yourself mentality. And that's not the case anymore. I'm trying to break that cycle. So.
Oh man. Hey, that is so much head trash to get over, right? Like, especially when you don't have a whole bunch of examples, because the thought experiment would go, hey, if we grew up, and I grew up in the trades and you were around the trades, and if we had all these examples of people who very quickly hired an apprentice, cared for them, mentored them, showered them with praise and affection, and then got more, and then kept fostering this, we would say, well, obviously that's what you want to do. But I mean, I can't speak for you, but I know growing up, it was dad started the business. Hopefully he had a son so he could expand his business. Mom did the bookwork, and then dad's knee blew out, and then he got a job as a janitor at the school. Like that's sort of the thing. I mean, what were your examples of contractors?
Yeah, so I started after my freshman year of college. I hopped on a paint crew that was mostly college kids and a couple career painters who were pretty sloppy and pretty rough. So no actual good work got done on those job sites. We did a lot of painting, but I can't say that wasn't. Like, I look back now and go, oh no, like you didn't know what you didn't know. But
a lot of boxes were checked back then.
No, it was rough. I worked for a mason for a while. Also, really rough neck crew under the table in a Rochester winter. Like, it just like this dysfunction was the norm on those job sites. And yeah, no, I never had like a legal, coherent, normal job in the trades until I made my own.
That's a very interesting adjective, because a lot of the times I describe it as, you just got kind of unintentional guys who go through life and girls who go through life. But legal is a very important qualifier. Like, honestly, our trades, there's so much illegal stuff going on. I mean, and it's not just what people think with like illegal immigrants and employing people who are undocumented. No, it's just a whole bunch of guys who own businesses who don't like paying taxes. Like, that's not a great way to go through life.
No, it's also very risky too. Like, would you trust a bunch of hungover college kids and career painters not to fall off a roof at one point? Like, no.
Well, when you say that, the only thing that pops to mind is, it's amazing any of this works, right?
Yes. And I think that guy's still in business 10 years later in my hometown. So
that shows you the level of kind of what's expected and what will pass for a payable job, really. I mean, and let's say, and sorry, we've kind of veered off already. I want to give you a proper introduction, but we'll say this and then we'll do that. But let's say you don't like paying taxes. Fine. Nobody really likes paying taxes, but it's sort of like we get a lot of stuff for it and you should pay whatever. But go to try to buy a home and you've basically been running a zero income business for 10 years. They're not going to, I mean, you are going to bite yourself in the foot sooner or later with that sort of mentality. Like, yeah, you go to buy a fishing boat to get a loan. Guess what? You've had a net loss for 8 years. They're not going to give you a loan.
Yeah, it's short-sighted. It's very short-sighted.
All right. So Noah Kanter, we met probably at Crank a year or so ago. Yeah, super. And what interests me about people in this industry is, it takes a self-selected bunch to fly to Denver and sit there and talk about spreadsheets and systems and processes. But the questions you were asking, I was like, oh, hey, take a note. Here's a dude who's got some horsepower in him. Like, we need to get to know this guy. And I'm glad we did because you run nth degree painting up in Vermont, which I can see you now. Most other people can. You're sitting under a beautiful tree. You're working on a historic property now. I was following. And you also have, that's fine. We all run painting businesses, yada, yada. You have the coolest podcast ever, Advice from a Young Tradesman. Dude, that is, I listened to your intro episode and I thought, this dude does not disappoint. I could feel you had some horsepower in you in Crank. And then when you came out with the podcast, I was like, oh, this is perfect, man. This is perfect. This is a dude with thoughts way deeper than I have about the trades, about humans, about everything else. So,
I don't know about that.
Man, if you guys do not subscribe and listen to that podcast, listen to it. It is one of the best sort of decantations, funneling down of thoughts and experiences in the trade. So enough about that. Your podcast is awesome, man. I'm your biggest fan.
Much appreciated, Nick. If we just lost me a little, it's because I got a phone call that I declined. So there was a blip. Sorry about that. I genuinely appreciate those words. Your interview was awesome. I'm happy with season 1. It's out. I kind of capped it at season 1 in April, and it's an off-season project. Don't have the time I want to put into it in the busy summers. So season 2 will be back when it gets cold.
Yeah, so I was hoping you would be like a lot of other podcasts, or I wish you do a Rogan thing where you have 3-4 hour podcasts a week that I could listen to. So I hope you could. I hope it snows pretty soon so you can get back at
it. Give me till October at least, and then
exactly.
If COVID comes back with really rearing and I lose a bunch of interior work again, I'm going to be on it more full time than not. So.
Oh man, that's awesome. So. Yeah, it's I don't know. What else can you say, man? I'm a huge fan of it. It's a thing. Please just do more of them. It's people like you who are out there, putting a good face on the trades, and appreciate all the work you're doing, man.
Really appreciate that. Just real quick, when the phone call came in, the volume of your voice dropped about 50%. I don't know what happened. Are you able to turn it up on my end or on your end? I'm maxed out over here.
Yes. I tell you what, give me just a and did any of that fix it? All right, let me try some more here.
Sorry about that.
No worries, man. Listen, we're using apps to connect us all over the world, so it's a good thing. We could make this. All right, did any of that fix it?
No, but. When you talk, I'm just going to hold it up to my ear and then come back. We're going to work it like that. It'll be fine. And everyone will just see my nose hair. Like, it's good.
Not a problem. I'm switching up webcam. I'm switching up. We're going to see if we can get it going. All right. Did any of that fix it?
No, I really think it's on my end. It happened when the phone call came in. Just nuked my volume.
No worries, man. So we're going to start our question exchange now. My first question for you would be, what's the favorite brush you've ever owned?
And it's funny. I've heard that question asked of other painters, and my honest and slightly embarrassing response is I don't have one. It's I I have obsessed about decisions on products like sanders, which festool sander, which chemical, what pressure washing nozzle and gear. I will spend hours researching those and honing that stuff. And when it comes to a brush, just give me whatever Purdy or Wooster I buy at whatever paint store I'm at. Like, I wish I had a better answer. I've just never put that level of thought into a brush, and if that's heretical, here we are.
No, listen, man, I love that stuff because you and I share that together, which is I am not a gear junkie. It's like I want to do a tiny bit of research. I want to buy something good and then never think about it again. I'm fully on board with that stuff. So, but yes, it is heretical because most painters fetishize their brushes. So I guess we're heretics.
Yeah, no, guilty for sure. But no one's gonna touch my pressure washing nozzle game. That's what I can say.
I love it, man. Okay, question from Noah.
All right, let's do a molecular science one.
Yes.
So, I was spraying some sticks on an interior cabinet repaint, and I got a million little craters in them, little dimples, and no contaminants, I am sure, in my sprayer line or on the surface. I chalked it, I tacked it, vacked it. Like, what could that be? Any ideas?
Did you thin it?
No.
There's the next wrinkle. Dang, I was hoping you would say yes. That would be an easy out.
No. And I'll add a little more data. It was kind of humid that day. I was bringing some of that humid air in with the venting, but a lot of people responded to my Instagram story and said, "Oh yeah, Sticks does that." And then people in very dry climates were like, "That's never happened to me." And I know Nick May used it exclusively for his cabinet stuff, and he's in Denver. So, anything there?
Was it over previously stained and varnished cabinets?
It was not. It was over kind of a synthetic laminate thing, and just gently scuffed it into a little powder, whatever the surface was, and cleaned it real well.
So here's something interesting. I almost never see these catastrophic failures like a lot of people see because I don't paint a lot of weird stuff. You know, I turn down projects that aren't kind of in my wheelhouse. So the only time I've experienced a water-based paint or primer mass cratering was either on a very, very well-applied oil varnish thing or synthetic or laminate tops like that. So I think there is just there's a weird like surface tension-y, grippy sort of thing that happens. I don't know the science behind this. I've only experienced it a few times. And because I experienced it, I don't look for it anymore. Like I don't seek out those projects. So I will say I can only add a data point to this, which is I've replicated what you did, painting synthetic surfaces and really well varnished, like not nitrocellulose lacquer finish cabinets, like a good oil varnish from the 80s. I had stuff crater like crazy. That's why not only I do not use water-based primer, I don't seek out those products anymore. So sorry, I can't be more help, but that's just an added data point. So
no, that is actually helpful. I'm probably just going back to oil for interiors priming when I need to. Like so.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
One of my big rocks in the painting in the coating science stuff for the next 12 months is I would love to find a water-based primer to get rid of all of our oil-based primers. And I think this winter in January, I'm going to do another exhaustive search. I always test out water-based primers in the winter, but I think I'm going to give it another go with a super intentional effort to try to get rid of oil, because basically that's the only stinky, hazardous thing that I have left anymore.
Yeah. I don't love it, but if it's the only thing that I found works, I might be going back to it. And it would feel like kind of a regressive step just because it's I know there's a lot of good options out there, but and I also don't want to get into like the really fancy like 2-part this and that and like you're mixing it that like I want simple, and maybe that's too much to ask for, but yeah.
Hey, listen, you're a man after my own heart. You and I are the exact same. because nothing I do is not simple. And because we have, the apprenticeship program, it has to be simple. And I need to use coatings that are readily available. Like I can't get stuff shipped from Italy that take a 5-day lead time. I need to have 6 stores close to me that I can get this stuff whenever I want. So that's the parameters I put on that for myself.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. I will special order Armstrong Clark, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, question from me to you. What is the most difficult project you've ever completed?
Ooh. I think it was actually my last exterior last season, and it was less that it was a complex project, but I also was battling the end of season weather, and that was wreaking havoc on some of my finishes. So it was a full exterior repaint. It was paint over previously stained big cedar clap. So a lot of weird failure on that, as you know, as well as 3 separate decking and pergola projects that all had a horrible chemical strip to do, all as the temperatures were plummeting and dew point was wacky in Vermont October. So
Awesome.
there were weeks where it was just like, nothing is working with these coatings right now. Everything's squirrely. I have 6 hours a day to do anything. And yeah, no, that one just drove me crazy. But if it was July, it wouldn't have been that hard.
Oh, yeah. All right, Noah, question from you.
Okay, let's just go a little bit left field. We're all self-employed, and we have a whole lot to talk about just industry stuff, but I am always curious what self-employed people do for retirement savings, because we don't have a safety net, really. Social Security, but we have to build our own nest egg. And I think I got into that a little late. It was only a couple years ago where I was really like, oh, no one's doing this for me, I got to do it. So what is your philosophy with that? What do you do?
Yeah, so for 20 years, I've put money away each month into mutual funds. I got the advice a long time ago, 18, before I left for the Army. My father basically just told me, get a financial advisor and start putting something away each month. And whether you use it as a cash reserve or whether it's an investment, do that. And I did. And over the last 20 years and over, 10 of that running my own business at least, I've changed my feelings a little bit on that, which is now I realize I have a certain personality type. I have the wish and the want and the ability to sort of do things on my own. And so I've sort of shifted from, I still put money away into that because I think it's a good thing to do, just to set money aside. That's a kind of cash reserve that's got a little higher return. But also now I'm taking my retirement completely into my own arms, and I'm going to just build something myself. Now, basically, there's a couple easy things that we can do as tradespeople. Number one, sell our business. I'm not that interested in that because it's the potential of this business is an amazing thing to generate wealth and freedom and things for my people, the people I employ, their families, things like that. And I also love it a lot. So I would like to continue doing this. And I thrive in doing this business. If I didn't have this business, I magically would just find something else to devote this much time to. The other thing that's the next sort of easy shoe to slip into is real estate, which is, we own a building, we own a shop, we may own some rentals, maybe our apprentices or employees rent from us, maybe we help them into home ownership. That's the sort of thing where when you take it upon yourself, taking cash generated from a trades business, put it into something that we can know and understand, because I don't understand mutual funds. I don't even understand the stock market. I can understand a commercial building on Main Street, New Prague, and I can understand a rental property. That's a simple thing. It's a house. I know houses inside and out. There's no surprises for me unless a tornado comes. So that's sort of, I've shifted completely from, I see what can be done with brain power, effort, grit, sweat in a business. There's no reason you can't do that for retirement either. So,
I was wondering if you had gone into real estate, just owning. I know a lot of tradespeople do. So, yeah, I was shopping duplexes before COVID happened, and then kind of when earnings got a little sketchy, didn't know what to expect next year, put it on hold and kept renting. But yeah, I would love to own a multifamily.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, the stock market goes up and down, real estate goes up and down, but not over 20 years.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
stay there long enough, and it's one of the easiest ways to build wealth. I mean, I hear a lot of people in the trades basically say, these service companies we're starting is a great way to sort of get into wealth management and wealth in general. And some people use a plumbing company or a painting company as a stepping stone into that. This is my flagship. I love this, and I am so proud of this, and I'm never going to stop doing it. If there can be things generated on the side because of that, I'm for that too. But this is my flagship.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay. Let's see here. You went to college, my friend. We get stuck in arguments about people see me, people see you, and they say, yeah, these stupid kids, tell them college is worthless, get into the trades. How say Noah Kanter?
Both is not a bad way to go. Or no college is fine, and college and then into the trades is also fine. It's not for everyone. It wasn't for me. I was just in the pipeline and didn't know how to advocate for myself and get out of it. And so I went, and like, that's fine. I'm never going to be a person crying about the opportunity to go to college. Was it for me? Again, no. But yeah, I don't think there's a super big downside to that education. Yeah, there are the bad stories about getting in, 6 figures of debt and never being able to crawl out of it. That's a big national problem for sure. That's like the negative side of college. But, if you don't do that, it's not, I guess the essence of your question is it a waste to go to college and then work a
Yes.
trades job? And in that spirit, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I agree. And if can you point to one thing or one something that you took away from college that you would not have got just by getting right into the trades?
I think, just all the things that felt like hoops you had to jump through, the essays, the reading, the this, that. I think when I started to do thought work again, when I started to put the podcast together, when I started to do that deeper thought work, I know that some of that came back. Just that understanding how to build that mental discipline back up to sit down at an empty page and put something together. It was genuinely a struggle. I hadn't flexed those mental muscles for a decade, but I knew they were there, and I think that's worth something.
And if you don't mind sharing, you have an anthropology degree.
Yeah, yeah. So I was floundering around in college. Again, I did not know what to do. I didn't really feel like it was the right choice, and then it was like what a lot of people do when they get to sophomore junior year, and they're like, I don't have a major. Is you pick a low credit major that is going to be interesting. And then I quickly realized that archaeology was kind of a trade. Archaeology is very, very hands-on. I was digging in southern Ohio all summer, and that was awesome. I genuinely loved that. I thought that was going to be a good career track. I thought I found something. And then I worked in the industry a little more after college and realized, like, ooh, this doesn't feel like a good future plan. And by that point, I had 4 or 5 years of trades experience, and I knew I liked that, so I just went back to the trades.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Question for Noah.
Okay. I want to talk clear coating versus penetrating stain. So
Aha.
I feel very comfortable prepping for, recommending, talking about maintaining a penetrating stain finish. Clear coats are a whole nother beast. We see them failing a whole lot more than succeeding. We strip them off regularly. And when clients ask about them, I'm always like, I don't want to do that. I'm pushing them away. But that's just because I see them failing way more. I don't know how to set those expectations and manage them and set that client up for actual success. So what say you on how you approach clients asking you for clear coats?
And we're talking exterior or in exterior,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay,
Exterior,
good.
you know, like the nice cedar trim on the lake house in the sun.
Yep. So basically, I give my people two options for clear coats exterior. One of them is a sort of I'm trying to think. It's like a bootstrap way of getting a really good finish, which is you take a product like a PPG Prolux SRD, which has some film forming abilities if you put it on thick enough, but it also has the penetration stuff. A
Hmm.
Cabot wood tone deck and siding, which we don't really use much anymore, but similar product.
Hmm.
Sherwin-Williams, Super Deck, semi-transparent. One of those sort of things that's supposed to be a penetrating, but you just
Hmm.
do at least two coats of it. And I like that method because if you take just a film forming finish, like a lot of those log oils and stuff, and just put a couple coats on, I think it's too thick and it doesn't penetrate enough. And that's why we
Right.
see the flaking, the cloudiness, the stuff like that. When I do these finishes, we actually just finished up a beautiful log home restoration with this, where we just did one really thick coat of it and then another coat over the top, and it does actually build a shine. But that first coat almost consolidates the wood. Now, that's okay. That's like a homemade backdoor version of creating something with shine to it. But the real way to do it, the Cadillac method, is my favorite thing on earth, which is like a Sickens CTOL 1, 2, 3 sort of thing. And for the life of me, it's hard to talk clients into it because it's insanely expensive product and it takes three coats. But
Hmm.
when these things are done right, I have a client who has a cabin in Canada, 2 feet from a lake, crazy winters and everything else. 16 years ago, he put on CTOL 1, 2, 3, and every year he goes up there, hoses it off. It still has like a sailboat finish on the outside of this cabin, all redwood siding. So I've done projects around here where we've done the 1, 2, 3. It performs phenomenally on vertical stuff. Now on deck floors and handrails and anything horizontal, you still need to put that maintenance coat, that 2, 3 coating on there every once in a while. But man, if you can get down to bare wood and do CTOL 1, 2, 3, amazing, man. That is
Okay.
the reason. The reason that stuff works is because it's not this rigid varnish. It's more of like this weird hybridy, penetrating, new age, oily kind of stuff. And it's way more of like working with the wood than just encapsulating the wood.
Interesting. Okay. And that would work on verticals, even direct sunblasting. You wouldn't need maintenance coats on those over that whole time horizon.
Well, you definitely need maintenance coats. That's the big thing. If you can get somebody to buy into this Cadillac system and say, this is going to set you up for the rest of your life, do a whole bunch of work right at the start, and then somewhere between 3 and 5 years, hose the house off, spray on a maintenance coat, and that's like sunblock for the next 3 to 5. The problem is somebody waits 7 to 10 and then you start over and strip it. So you still run into that. But I've seen if you have to do a film forming finish on exterior wood, that is the best way to go because it isn't just this rigid clear coat. It is a more like flexible, breathable, hybridy sort of finish.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man. What I got to ask you the same question real quick, and then I'll ask you another one. But yeah, what if somebody wants a satin finish on wood outside? What do you do in Vermont?
You know, I rarely take those jobs just because I don't feel like I know the maintenance expectations or the products that well. Someone says, stain my wood all day. Like, I'm great with that. But I just don't take those jobs. Or I can usually say, hey, like, I'm not comfortable with that route. If you just want to not have a luster and have a slightly more predictable maintenance plan without catastrophic failure if you let it go, um, we'll do that. So I can usually talk them into a semi-transparent stain. And that's my approach.
Awesome, man. What is the most satisfying coating you've ever applied?
Mm. Armstrong Clark semi-transparent oil on perfectly prepped cedar. And like I swear they're not paying me to say this, but this stuff does not lap. You can try to lap it. Direct sun, you can step all over it. You can walk away, take a phone call, come back. It looks gorgeous going in. It has that very satisfying thing, and you can't screw it up. It's like you're dealing with a super coating. It's wild.
Zach Kenny, a guy from your neck of the wood, introduced me to the company and the owner, and they sent me some stuff. And yeah, it's awesome. It's like deck stain used to be 20 years ago, man. It's magical stuff.
Yeah, no, I got on them because of Zach as well, and now I'm doing a big cedar restoration end of this month. It's gonna go all Armstrong. It's genuinely next level stuff. I used Sherwin's semi-trans the other day and was like, oh God, you can't go back. It'll ruin you.
Yeah, difficulty for me here is, you're in their neck of the woods, and it's a little tougher to get. It's very difficult for me to get here.
Oh, it's at least a week lead time. Yeah.
Whoa, are you serious? Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a store an hour drive south, but I'm not doing that regularly.
Wow, man. Yeah, well, you just got to do a ton of business to the point where they'll deliver it to you then, I guess.
No. Yeah.
Nice, man. All right, question, Noah.
Okay, yeah, you asked yours. All right, so this is kind of one I would more ask on my podcast, but I was thinking about it this morning. So as tradespeople, a lot of us start just in the weeds on the ladder, and then we have a business, and then we realize that we have to learn all these other skills to grow our business that we didn't get into the trades to do, the finance, the HR, the everything, right? And, I'm realizing as I do this, as I really take that next step, man, a lot of these are weak points. Like, I am not a natural delegator. A lot of this stuff are big weaknesses for me, which is probably why I haven't done them yet. But they're becoming strengths. Like, I'm flexing those muscles and feeling that grow. So I'm wondering what you, Nick Slavik, feel like you've learned to get good at now, or at least proficient, that maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you were just not good at. It was one of your biggest weaknesses. What? Yeah. Does that question make sense?
Super easy question, Noah Kanter.
Okay.
Stopping to be like my father. It's been my life mission to stop running a business and treating others the way that I was treated and the way that my family business was run. So we think of the difficult thing as, the accounting, the marketing, the this and that. Honestly, Noah, money solves all those things, and not that much money either. You can get a web guy for a couple $100 a month, and all your problems are solved. You can get an accountant, a bookkeeper for a couple $100 a month, and all your problems are solved. You can buy AdWords. You can send out flyers. Couple $100, everything's solved. You cannot solve human problems with money. And I have devoted my life to trying to understand the humans around me and make them as happy as possible. And of all the things, listen, painters are good at painting. I don't know of any painter in the United States that can't train another painter. That is not the problem. It's everything that goes around that human besides the painting skills that we fail on, and why that person leaves us, why that person disappears and doesn't come back, or why they stay with us forever. And of all the things that I worry about in business, all those other things can be solved with either effort or money. I use a combination of both to solve those things. With the human thing, I feel like I have a 20% grasp on what humans around me need, what motivates them, and what makes them happy. And I have devoted my life now, and this is refocusing everything in the business to, these are things that are just done. They're clinical things. This is eating and sleeping and drinking water. That's accounting, marketing, painting. It's like, those are things you just do to get by. Now the focus is that. And especially after the lessons in the last couple of years of growing this thing, like, I don't worry about any of those other things. I worry about the humans around me because I don't know what to do sometimes. So that's what I know right now, that accounting seems like this. How could this ever work? Marketing seems like, what do I do? Try some things. 6 months later, it works. I don't know many people who've tried some things and solved human issues in their company. It seems like something you're going to have to put effort for the rest of your life. And I am fully on board with that. And now I'm recommitting myself to basically that for the rest of my life in this business.
Constant improvement.
Constant improvement, man. One of my core values. Okay, so likewise, another heavy one for you. You've talked to awesome people. You've had deep thoughts on your podcast. You're a very deep thinker yourself. Since you've been back in the trades, have you had an epiphany? And if so, what is it?
This is gonna sound just like it's gonna sound like bong rippy, but like stick with me. I think we subconsciously just seek out the things that we need for some reason. And I just needed and still do, I think, need to work a physical job. Reverting to just thought work in the office for better part of this winter, I was going stir crazy. I have all this energy. I just want to do something. I'm like producing these episodes. I upload them and there's a file and I'm like, okay, but I want to do something today. And I think doing the podcast refocused me on just being a tradesman. It made me really think about why I was drawn to that, and just even just kept doing it with my head down for a lot of my 20s. It's just something in me.
Oh man, and you know what? Not only realizing that, but internalizing it and sort of making peace with it is a great thing, right? I mean, because you can realize stuff, but if you never make peace with it, you're still gonna have turmoil the rest of your life.
Yeah. So it's, I can intellectually say, oh yeah, I want to be that hands-off boss, and not touch a brush for X amount of years. And it's like maybe someday, but I think I still want to be in the field right now. I definitely want helpers. I don't want to do everything, but I still belong in the field.
Listen, man, something that I've realized, I think I've come to terms with that and peace with that in the last 2 years as well. And it was driven home by a conversation I had with one of my peers. I'll be hiring an estimator and a salesperson later this year. And so I talked to somebody who's world-class in our industry in that. He's devoted his life to estimating and sales in our industry. And he asked me the simple question, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to get out of this? Do you want to separate yourself from the business? And I thought, if I really want to do this well, if I really want to make happy clients and happy apprentices and craftspeople, I need to still touch and feel this stuff. I need to spend a few mornings a week out in the field with my people just to feel it. I need to go out and do some estimates every week just to feel it. I need to do some part of the bookwork and the marketing, because you can get so much intuitive sort of feel that you can't get from a spreadsheet or by getting a report from somebody else. So listen, man, I've come to realize, and I've made peace with it, I'm never going to fully separate myself from this because I love it too much. And you need that if you want to be good at this,
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a follow-up on that? That actually dovetails with another question. I've even since Crank, I think I've been watching you delegate more and more positions of your duties. You have your trainers, you have your client concierges, you now salespeople, estimators. It seems like you're almost, if not at that point where you've pretty much delegated everything that you can. What do you do after that? Like you just said, you're going to be in the field a little, but that's not full time. What will your days be when you've given away most of your tasks?
Well, the huge misconception is once people do the painting, and then once people do the production managing, and then once people do the estimates, you got nothing to do. You have even more to do now, because your time is 1-for-1 replaced with, if you're not painting, you're holding painters accountable for the same amount of time. If you're not producing the jobs, if you're not contacting clients, you're holding your production managers accountable. And likewise with estimates, I'm going to spend just as much time holding my estimators accountable to their estimates as I used to do estimating. But now I have the choice. What doing this gives me the choice is I can do estimates if I want, or I can manage the estimators. I can go out and paint in the field, or I can manage the painters, or both. And that's a huge misconception that there's nothing left, because people always forget about, if you like the traction model of business, there's a visionary and an integrator. A visionary thinks about the big picture things. What should we grow to? Should we get into another field? How should we develop our apprenticeship program? Let's get into big things. And the integrator actually gets that and gets traction to it into the company. I've created a whole bunch of integrators around me to get some of these ideas. But even if I didn't have to hold those people accountable or do the work myself, the visioning of this company has to be done by somebody. You know, we have to be looking 3 to 5 years out when we have to say, what about COVID? I mean, now we have global epidemics to figure out. And that's not my production manager's fault. We need to be thinking, what's best for the 25 families that rely on my business? Is it good to keep this business open for them to work? Or is it good to shut this down and just tell them to take unemployment? I mean, those are the things that we need to be tasked with. And I've seen people go through the point in painting businesses and other trades businesses where they're painting, and then they've done the admin, then they've done the production, then they've done the sales, then they've hired people to do that. Then they've even hired managers to manage those people. And they have not gotten rid of everything yet. I don't know if there's a version where you can completely rid yourself of a company like this. You still have to hold people accountable. And that's the big thing. So sorry, long-winded answer.
Sure, no. No, that was a good one.
All right.
Forgot whose question that was originally.
What's that?
I forgot whose question that was originally.
Me too, but it was a good one. I answered it, so it must have been yours. So, yeah, you're right. I have delegated more things, but I have, in essence, if you want this thing to be really good, I replaced 40 hours of estimates with 40 hours of holding people accountable to the estimates, basically. That's just, if you want results, I mean, that's the best way to do it. So,
Sure.
Question for you. I feel like a rube asking you this now, because that was such an awesome question, but, the last question I have, and then you can ask as many as you like, but basically you watch social media pretty closely. What is something that all painters use for tools and equipment that is completely useless and silly?
Ooh. Other than fetishizing brushes?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't have an off the top of my head answer for that. Oh, you know what? I can loop that back to a question I asked you about a month ago, where I saw you, when you're cleaning decks, go straight to chemical brightener and skip some sort of a bleach wash before. Everyone starts with a bleach-based wash. And, I started going right to brightener. It was fine. I'm making more money now. I'm doing less work and getting the same result. So that's an answer.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a sort of simple-ish way of asking. I look for things when everybody's like, we've always done it that way, or this is what everybody does. I'm very attracted to those things because it's like, oh, this is ripe for innovation. This is ripe for first principle reasoning and actually questioning why we do this stuff, because most of the time it's completely unnecessary and whatever else. So yeah, but no, that's I love the way you question that sort of thing, because if you ask any of those people who go through a 3-step chemical washing process on a deck, what each one of those chemicals molecularly does to the wood, I'm sure you're not going to come up with much.
Yeah. I thought it was like a yin and a yang thing. Oh, bleach is basic, acid or brightener's acidic. Now you're in the mid. It's like, no, you can just acid's clean.
Yes,
acid's clean. Then you rinse it. You're fine.
Oxalic acid reacts with tannic acid in the wood to brighten it. And that's how it works. Now, the way maybe some people confuse those things, strippers are very basic, like caustic. And then you have to neutralize them with an acid. But no, if you're just brightening and cleaning a deck, unless you're stripping stuff off, you don't need to do any of that stuff. That's silly, man. And I would even say this. I love using oxalic acid because it's kind of a sneaky little trick. It doesn't cost any money. It's simple and it can't go wrong. But honestly, Noah, 95% of the decks we do could probably be scrubbed with Dawn dish soap and pressure washed off and get a very similar result.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep experimenting then. Do you have an answer to the question you asked me?
Oh, yes, the silly stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've realized a lot of stuff I used to carry around were sort of silly and unneeded. I liked them a lot. Like I used to make my own brush holders out of totes because it held my brushes up straight and it used to keep them good. You find out really quick what's unnecessary, and I won't call it silly or useless. I'll call them unnecessary. You find out really quick what's unnecessary when you have 25 employees out in the field, because the things that are unnecessary lie in the vans for 6 months and don't get used, and then get left on a job site and then get thrown out and nobody uses anymore. So honestly, when you look at the tools that we supply ourselves with now, a couple screwdrivers, maybe a drill, a random orbital sander, the $40 version, a painter's 5-in-1 tool, a couple snap blades, things like that, and some Allen wrenches. And most of the time, the Allen wrenches get thrown out because they don't get used very often. So it's
the toilet paper holders. That's it. The towel racks.
During exterior season, the Allen wrenches all disappear, and then everybody wants to go take off that toilet.
Useless. Yeah.
But listen, you find out really quickly what you can accomplish world-class work with how little of that stuff real quick when other people do it. So that's been a good lesson for me of streamlining.
Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of vans on the road. Those aren't particularly big work vehicles. Are each one of those vans self-contained units that have every tool for every single type of work you do, or do you have like some pressure washing vans that are different from the interior painting vans?
No, each crew has a van, and they have a series of Rubbermaid totes, step ladders, and extension ladders, and they can do any interior exterior project minus the pressure washing. We do have a van that one of my super high speed. You get this. He's a college kid who's going for like computer science, biology. He's a mad genius, but he comes back every summer and does our decks and pressure washing. So we set him up with a wash van with my homemade chemical cart and some pressure washers. But honestly, there's no specialized equipment, man. It's just like even our paint sprayers. I mean, we have, I'm trying to think, even our drywall stuff too. We have some specific stuff for our drywall division, but that's sort of just like self-contained stuff that not a lot of others crews use. So really there's not one set of tools for interior, one for exterior, one for this and that. And that you actually bring up a really good point, which is I would say a $78,000 Ford Super Duty truck is silly to own if you have a painting business, if you're not dragging around a huge trailer. You know what I mean? I get by with $8,000 soccer mom vans, and we do great with that stuff. It's super efficient.
Yeah. All right, I have two more.
Nice, man. Rock them out.
First one, how, if you do, how do you try and build or incentivize speed in your people if you're watching them do the thing perfectly, they have the dexterity, they know what good enough looks like? How do you get them to be like, you can do it 10 or 20% faster, like you can't? That's hard to convince people of. Thoughts on that?
Yes. Personality type largely dictates their success with that. And there are outliers. There are people that can surprise you, but there is a certain disc profile that will lend itself to that. And they are nervous, twitchy, anxious people who can't help but have that motor inside them going like that. So people will tell you that money will incentivize people to do that stuff. I've not found that to be the perfect case. I truly believe that when somebody has a phenomenal personality type for this, somebody who has a very high D, they will learn very quickly and they will act very ferociously on tasks. If they don't have that, they need experience. Magically, it's that old Army saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And if people don't have that itchy internal motor in them, which isn't a good or bad thing. I mean, I have it, and it sort of ruins my life sometime. But with experience, that comes, Noah. And that's been a realization over the last couple of years, which is now we have something in my business called the magic year principle, which is if I can get somebody to adhere to my core values and stay with me for a year, they become a magical craftsperson. They can not do very well their entire first year, but something happens at that year mark where they get 6 months inside, 6 months outside, and just things come together. And so now I just try to get people to stay with me for at least a year to show them how fun this can be.
I've been working on that with my summer employee. He's great. He's focused. He's skilled, and he picks up things really quickly, and he's smart. and I'm just wondering, like, how do I build speed? And I've been thinking a lot about that, and that answer helps.
Yeah, and listen,
Um,
man, that's one thing. Honestly, I've found that I've been exploring the limitations of myself and others in my company over the last year, and I have found that you can pull the levers, you can make things happen to a certain point, but after that, you can't substitute time and experience, and you have to know where that is. That's tough. That's a squishy thing. But when you get the sense that they just need experience now, all you have to do is foster them like a family member and just allow them to get that time and experience.
sure, sure. Okay, the next question is kind of the opposite of that, and I'm not thinking about doing it, but firing. I've only hired, and obviously there are the obvious fireable offenses,
Yeah.
attitude, late, just the obvious stuff.
Yep.
Do you fire based on just on other factors? I guess I'd say. Do you fire based on other factors other than the obvious things?
Yes. This becomes very easy when you lay out a list of non-negotiables that you must accomplish to keep your job. And in my company, we call them the standards. And it's basically our 5 core values, and we rate those people 4 times a year on them on a 1 to 10 scale. Our first one is trust, gain and maintain trust. If we don't trust somebody, it doesn't matter how good of a painter they are. We don't have to go any farther. We must trust you. One of our core values is constant improvement, which we talked about before. Honestly, we lay out a 1-year life in this company where the first 3 months you're a sponge and you just absorb, just do stuff. We don't care about production. We don't care about quality. Just do stuff. The next 3 months, we want you to start working in tandem with somebody and start asking some questions and doing tasks on your own. The next 3 months, between 6 and 9 months, we want you to be able to do stuff alone with a little bit of guidance from somebody on the same project or from us over Slack. Between 9 months and a year, we want you to be able to do everything we do on your own. You don't necessarily have to be world class, but we have to be able to drop you on a bedroom wall repaint and you do it. And then at 1 year, we want you to run a crew and have an apprentice if that's what you wish. If somebody doesn't follow those leaps and bounds, we counsel them. We tell them, hey, you're not following this. And one of our core values is constant improvement. And sooner or later, you're going to ask me for more money. And you must do these things in order to do this. And at some point, when they stop progressing, they have failed in our core value of constant improvement. We just say, listen, not only are you not improving, it almost feels like you're regressing, like you're not putting out forth any effort to it. You counsel them a few times, you give them a goal, you follow up with that goal, you train them, you put them with somebody who can set them up for success. And if they still don't do it, then it's just sorry. I mean, I don't know, there was a recent example of somebody we let go where there was about there's about 4 or 5 instances where we had specific goals for them to reach. We trained them, that we put them with our second most senior craftsperson to learn the craft. And still the person just wouldn't get off their phone. And it just came down to it. It's like, sorry. I mean, this is very clear. I didn't know what you think was going to happen here, but that's it. So when you lay down those things of non-negotiables, it's very easy to either promote somebody or fire somebody because they know what's expected of them. So coming up with those is a little difficult. It took me 10 years to figure out what to ask for from people or expect from people. But it's a little more easy now. So.
Okay. Based on that answer, I think I'm being a little hard on my guy about progress. He's knocking it out
I
of the
was
park
too,
then.
man. I was, and you know what? This is a lesson that I've learned over the last. I've refocused myself on people the last 2 years. Like I was telling you, you have to be a happy leader. You have to be an optimistic leader. I led even up until like 6 months ago, just like my father, which is, come on, faster, harder, better. Let's do this. What's wrong? Don't you guys understand this? And sooner or later, I realized these people are phenomenal at this. They've only been doing it a year. I've been doing it 28 years. Now comes the time where I've reached the limit of what I can control by myself, and I need to allow them the space to get experience. And my goal right now as the leader of this is to create a company, an environment where they feel safe and inviting and they can learn and get out of the way and let them learn now. So.
Yeah. I remember on my podcast, you said, this stuck with me. You said you were making sad employees.
Yes. Yes.
In like the first
Even,
third of your business or something, you said that. And there was a week where this year I just like stepped back after just a hard week, or it was early May. I was just running everybody too hard, and I was like, oh God, I'm making sad employees. And I
making
dialed it
sad
down. I
employees.
dialed it down. But it's easy
No,
to
and you know
do.
what? It's one of those things that I have this crazy internal justice, scale of justice thing. And it's like, that's not fair. I got treated like absolute dog S in this trade
Yep.
for my first
Yep.
15 years, and it made me better. Why can't I get the same result out of you? And you know what? That's not how
Yep.
these people work. And you have to say a good leader will adapt to that and focus on the mission. And you need to change as a leader in order to motivate people to get this mutual mission accomplished. And I need to be better.
Yep. Totally. Totally. Well, that's what I got.
Nice, man. Hey, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. We have to do it again because we've only scratched the surface on all this stuff. So thank you. I know what taking an hour out of a production day on a Friday does, especially the south side of a project. So, I mean, it means the world to me. Thank you so much, Noah. And again, thank you to the PCA for being awesome underwriters here. There's a link in this show if you want to be a member. The hockey stick curve started when I joined the PCA. I met dudes like Noah through the PCA. If you want more people like Noah to hang around with, the PCA is where they're hanging out at. It's not a secret club. It's here for you. I would urge you to look into it. Even if you don't want to be a member, there are an insane amount of free resources. And yeah, thank you to the PCA. Also Noah's podcast, Advice from a Young Tradesman, one of the greatest things I've ever listened to. And I'm super sad that you actually have a job and you can't do the podcast full time instead. But I understand that they coincide.
Mm-hmm. Hey, crowdfund it. I'll quit this one.
Hey, listen, I'll be investor number one, man.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on, Nick. This was fun.
Anytime, Noah. Take care, buddy.
All right. Take care. Says we're still live.